this is Nam,
It's Cathy.
and welcome to another episode of CY Zang. And this week we will be walking you through a new product that Cathy introduced recently, her enamel pins. What's your history with pins? Have you been a pin collector for a long time?
No, I'm not gonna pretend I am. I started casually collecting them maybe earlier this year. As I started paying more attention to them, I wanted to design my own, but I just never had the push that I needed to research manufacturers and figuring out the right design and specs that goes into creating a pin design. Not until when we were preparing for our first craft show in May. It was about 4 weeks prior to that. We were worried that we didn't have enough inventory to sell in our full 10 by 10 booth because at the time I only offered art prints and just a few card designs. So you reached out to one of your friends for
Yeah.
what was it?
So I think we're always looking at kind of what other products we can sell besides just art prints. And I think what happened was my good friend Melody Gottfried, she makes pins herself for her business, Fred and Far, and I'll put a link in the show notes. And she started making pins, so I was like, oh, cool. Like, my friend from law school is like making these products. We have a pretty good relationship with her, so we decided to reach out to her and say, hey, we don't know anything about these products. Can you tell us a little bit about how difficult they are and how much it costs to manufacture and what's the turnaround time and just some general information. And we were able to have a group text, and she was able to give us some good feedback. And
once she made the intro and email between me and the supplier that she uses, that she found through Alibaba, it kind of lit a fire under my ass to design pins because with these overseas suppliers, they need about 3 weeks of lead time, including shipping. And at that time, I didn't have any pin design. I mean, most of my work is in watercolor, and that doesn't work. That doesn't transfer directly to pins because, for one, they use only solid colors. And so my mind was kind of going wild. I didn't know if I could do it, but I carved out time and disciplined myself and gave myself 2 days to come up with 3 to 5 pins to be able to create in this first batch and to be made in time for the fair.
And I think also what helped was we went to this local gallery in Portland. It's called Gallery Nucleus. And there's also a Nucleus gallery down in Los Angeles. And we talked to the guy who runs it. His name's Charlie, really nice guy. And we actually specifically went there because Cathy wanted to
buy a pin.
Buy this pin. And we went there and we started talking shop and asking about his experience in art and his experience making pins. And he had previously made pins, and he was just giving us information about the process of designing it, kind of like the pitfalls of dealing with suppliers in China and how you have to communicate them and be super clear with them.
Yeah, and I don't think we went in with the intention of extracting information on pin making. I think we literally went because I wanted to buy this one pin. But
yeah, and I'm pretty curious and inquisitive, and I just wanted to know about the process because it just seemed interesting, right?
Yeah, and I think even at the time I had maybe 2 rough designs in pencil. It's not nearly as final as it needed to be, but I believe I spent maybe part of 3 days finalizing these 4 designs. And it was one thing that you told me to kind of keep me in focus because of the time constraint was instead of coming up with brand new designs, why not repurpose existing designs I have in my art prints that are selling well, and maybe they would do well in the pin version too.
Generally, we were curious about it, and I think by talking to some of these people, we were able to kind of humanize the experience and kind of see that the barrier to entry was pretty low, right?
I think a lot of it's just in our head, and because with pins you can't make it yourself. You need special machinery to do it, and when you hire someone else to make it for you, you have to buy them in bulk. So just the idea of holding hundreds of pins that may or may not sell, and it just feels daunting and maybe not as worthwhile as something like a paper product. So I think that's a hurdle that maybe a lot of artists are facing. At the same time, pin market is exploding, and a lot of illustrators and makers who are making their own line of pins, and they're doing well. But I didn't want to just jump in because there was this fad, this trendy thing that everybody's jumping on. Like, I wanted to know that I would actually enjoy the experience of designing them. And after doing them this first round, I do enjoy doing them a lot. It forced me to work a lot more on, it forced me to work digitally. So I had to transfer a lot of my hand sketches on Photoshop or Illustrator into digital drawings, and filling in the correct colors and providing the correct specs like dimensions and color codes with the suppliers, getting their mock-up back, approving that. So it requires new skills of working with manufacturer that you've never met before, kind of having that leap of faith that it's gonna work out.
And learning how to communicate with them.
Learning how to communicate clearly via email on a creative project.
Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll just walk through each pin and kind of like the conception of it.
So the Fuck Yeah Fox pin is inspired by my best-selling car, the Fuck Yeah Fox. I only had maybe 2 card designs. Actually, I have about 4 card designs prior to making pins, and this card by far sells better than all of my other cards. And I thought that this would be cool as a pin to wear because of I really like the contrast of something kind of lovable with cuss word, because I don't know, I just like the dichotomy of them together, and I think that's why people are attracted to this card, because of this cute fox with an attitude and saying fuck yeah. It's something that's kind of unexpected in an endearing, sweet way. So I designed something I didn't want to copy the fox exactly, but I wanted to be able to retain the essence of the fox, the personality of the fox. So
I think so what are some of the challenges of taking an existing print and putting it into a true 2D with no shading or anything whatsoever?
As far as turning a watercolor art into a 2D solid color art, I would say just deciding on where to draw the outline, where to fill in the details, how detailed I even want the pin to be, because I've seen pins that are really intricate with a ton of detail and they're done really well, and maybe at the time I just didn't have the confidence to do that, nor is it my style to do that, because my watercolor art is also, it's simple. It may look like it contains a lot of details, but the way I execute them is very fluid and spontaneous, so I wanted to convey similar style in my pins.
So at what point did you know that you were happy with it or finished?
I think it was a matter of time constraint. I just felt like if I was happy enough, if I was willing to buy and wear the pin, then I would call it ready to go.
And I think I haven't known you to be one who would be like an illustrator and stuff like that, but like how did you decide what style to like illustrate this in?
I think the way I interpreted pin was just very stylistic line drawings with strategic placement of colors. That's not, I mean, they're not always cartoonish, like there's vintage style and all these other things. I just kind of went with my gut on a style that would still align with my watercolor style. That's that may also appeal to similar people that buy my art.
Yeah. So you ordered these. I think you made a batch of 100. They came in little plastic baggies, and we had to remove it from the back here and then put it onto these custom cards that you made in order to display the product. What went into designing the series of the backings?
Yeah, I think I wanted the backboard to be square. It was inspired by a pin that I purchased by James Jean, which I'm sure everyone knows. His backboard is in this exquisite letterpress, or was it gold foil? I don't remember. It was a really fancy square card, and I wanted it to be a square card. And I also wanted to include my watercolor on it because I don't see a lot of pin backings with watercolors. Maybe because the pin makers didn't do watercolor, or I tend to be more graphical or digital illustration just because it goes with the pin design itself. But I thought, why not throw in some watercolor, because that is still my main medium. We play with different patterns, like you had suggested that I include a larger version of the fox on the backboard, maybe on the side, and it shows kind of the two side by side. And I thought, I did try it. It looked too busy, so
we're thinking of something like, because we wanted to connect. I was thinking of maybe like, hey, why don't you connect the pin with the original print? But it didn't look right. It would have looked too busy no matter how we did it.
Yeah, I think it's taking attention away from the pin itself.
Yeah.
So I ended up going with an abstract a backsplash in watercolor, in kind of coordinating color.
And what's the price point you chose for this product?
Retails $10 each.
Cool.
And it's $10 for all of my pins, even though the fox is a little bigger and costs more to manufacture than the other pins. I just wanted to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And the next two pins are part of my yoga series. I started on a yoga series of pigs, actually different farm animals and yoga poses, because I started taking yoga and I really I just really enjoy it as a form of exercise and active meditation. So this upward pig painting, watercolor painting, was the first piece I ever did, and it became one of my best sellers as an art print. I thought that I would repurpose this as a pin as well, because I would wear this on my backpack or on my jacket.
Was it hard? Were you thinking about including the mat with it, or was the mat never an option?
What mat? Oh, the yoga mat. Yeah, I did. I think I did a sketch with the mat, but I wanted the silhouette to be of the pig rather than something flat on the bottom, kind of cutting it off. I just thought this is a little more fun.
Was this one relatively easy to do?
Yes, this one is the easiest to do, because to draw a pig, I think I've drawn this pig many times already, just from when I first was conceptualizing a pig doing upward dog. There's no pig doing upward dog on Google if you're searching. Not as far as I could see, so I had to do a lot of trial and error, and once I got that at the angle down, I was able to sketch it pretty quickly.
So I noticed the pin has the original print has a lot of different shades. How did you not only pick this final shade, but also the underbelly of the shade as well?
Well, I wanted to keep it simple. This is mostly two-tone in pink and black, but I also thought maybe it was too simple if I remove all of the watercolor gradient in the pig's body. I ended up just adding a little bit of details, like small fuzz of hair behind his ear and over his ear, and a little bit of lighter shading in the belly area, just to give it a little bit of dimensionality. But I don't know, if I was given another week to work on this could have been another pig. It just, at the end of the day, I think with these creative projects, you just have to know intuitively when to stop.
And then any call outs regarding the final swatch right here?
No, I think I wasn't looking for a specific. Oh, actually, the way I picked color was I went on this Pantone color website. It had a library of all the Pantone colors, and there's this color wheel that you can pick. Generally, you can kind of estimate what color, a color picker, you can pick the color that you want, and it provides a full page of Pantone colors that would be similar to that color family. So from that page, I picked the color that I like, and I tried out like two or three or five, and I used that color code for all the parts of the pic that I wanted the same color. I mean, that's pretty basic, I think, for digital illustration anyway. Maybe without the Pantone part, but Pantone was the color code that I have to provide in the specs.
So this is Cathy's third pin, and it's based on her giraffe painting, Ellie the giraffe. So how did you go and decide on this print to make into a pin?
Well, Ellie's been one of my best-selling art prints since the beginning. It's really popular in nurseries because of the lighter colors on the art print. I wanted something that's a little more adult friendly. Not adult friendly, but something that like an adult will wear that's not in this pastel color. So I darkened the colors a bit. I made it a little less whimsical, but I still wanted to retain again, just going back to all my pins, I wanted to retain the essence of the animal that I originally painted. So it has that symmetry. Well, it's a slight asymmetrical, which was done on purpose. And I chose a different color scheme, so the lighter beige matches the lighter beige of the fox. And that was planned because I want to have some kind of cohesiveness. By the time I have 10 pins, I wanted some cohesiveness across a few different pins, so it looks like it's made by the same person. And I chose the darker markings on the body to be more on the brown side, to be more brown than orange, just to make it look a little more grown up.
It's interesting because the final swatch actually matches the original Ellie painting more so than I would say
The
the
pin
pin.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's just the colors I'm drawn to when I'm painting, but for digital illustration, I think I try to imagine what the pin would look like if it was in that reddish orange color, and I thought maybe it's a little too much. It's like it may look a little too childish for people to wear.
So this pin is actually interesting because it's the only pin that's not based off of a print. It's based off of concepts that we've dealt with, but based on your yoga series, but it's not actually based on off existing print.
Yeah, and initially I actually didn't plan to make it into a yoga pin. I actually started sketching out black sheep. I like the concept of a black sheep, an underdog, like that type of concept. So I started drawing black sheep, and I was drawing the black sheep doing different things, either being really excited or showing an attitude close to the fox, a couple other poses, and eventually I got around to, I think maybe it was because I was also simultaneously working on the pig. I thought, hey, why not make it into a pear? So I started experimenting with different yoga poses, and I thought the Warrior 2 is a good one because her body's very open, and I get to showcase most parts of the sheep in this really like brave, open, welcoming pose, and I wanted it to have a similar expression as the proud fox.
Cathy's actually spreading her arms wide right now in the warrior, in the warrior 3 pose or warrior 2 pose while she's explaining
it. To kind of figure out how I draw the sheep, because I could say, how do you find an image of a sheep doing warrior 2? You kind of have to use a little bit of my imagination or use a human model as an example.
Was it kind of freeing to be able to go whatever direction you wanted with this pin, as opposed to being trapped with having to use make it look like one of your past friends?
Yes, it was freeing. It was also scary because I had no reference to base off to know how the pin would turn out. I mean, that goes for all my pins. I had no idea how a pin of my own drawing would turn out. I was worried that it would be too childish or that it would look really just amateur. I mean, maybe to some people they are, but I really like how this turned out. And it makes me want to make more pins not based on my previous art.
Another thing that kind of jumps out at this with this pin is that it's the only one where you use gold lining, right?
Gold plating? Yeah. And that was on purpose too. I didn't think the gold worked as well with the other animals I did. Although I think, now that I think about it, it may work quite well. There's different types of gold that I can use, but for this black sheep especially, I knew that I couldn't have used. If I used black, it would be too plain because the sheep itself is black. So gold was what I went with, and I honestly had no idea what it was going to turn out. And in a lot of ways, I took a risk because I didn't even get a sample of my pins or a pin that they've created before. I think we were basing solely on the taste of Melody's taste, because she's ordered thousands of pins from them.
This is actually my favorite backboard as well. I liked what she did with this one.
Oh yeah, here I used ink, a little bit of watercolor, and brush show, which creates that splatter in the back. It kind of looks like she's either wearing a really exotic cape or farting rainbows.
Yeah, farting rainbows.
Oh, and a friend commented that she appreciates the double entendre of Black Sheep Warrior, with it being, the black sheep kind of being the unpopular one in the family, and but is able to come to her own identity and feeling and being a warrior in the thing that is life.
So, Cathy, all in all, it seems like you had a pretty good experience making these pins, right?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think we got lucky with timing, with deciding to make the pins in time for the fair. I mainly wanted it to be available for the fair so I can get quick feedback from a high number of people in one day on whether these pins would do well. But it did give me the encouragement to want to make more pins in the future. And I also just mainly, I like the process of making pins. It takes me away from hand painting for a while. And I like the process of making a three-dimensional product that is tiny and can be worn on people's clothes.
What kind of ideas do you have about where you want to take this in the future, or what direction you want to go? Do you want to go bigger? Do you want to go smaller? Do you want to go more colors, less colors, non-animals?
I think I would stay with the same size. The fox is the biggest one. That's probably as big as it will get for me. I'm going to stick to animals for now, but it's hard to say like what or when, how they will take shape a year or two from now.
I guess they'll just have to keep their eyes peeled.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us for this episode. If you have any questions, please feel free to direct message Cathy or leave comments, and we'll do our best to respond. But thank you for joining us for another episode of CY Zane.
Thanks for watching.